The following program is intended for mature audiences.
Football fans, the time is now.
Give me a hell yeah!
For the football show you never knew you wanted. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Broken Helmet.
Coming to you live on tape on this Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. It is the best show you have never heard of, The Broken Helmet. Rich Eggy here behind the wheel, and to get in touch with the show, you can reach us at brokenhelmetshow@gmail.com or at brokenhelmetpod on X. So, there was a little bit of news today as the FBI have announced a huge investigation into gambling and NBA player props combined with poker and the mafia. Woo! I don't know how to really approach it, nor do I care all that much. This is not a big deal. It really isn't. I'm sorry to say. It's my 2 cents. It's not a big deal at all. It's illegal poker, been going on forever. If you've ever played poker, you've been in these places before. Obviously, this one, X-ray tables and card markings and all the rest. I mean, it's what you would think in an unregulated poker room with big, gigantic players, tangible to the mob, right? I mean, okay. Not earth-shattering there. And then you combine it somehow, oddly, with an investigation into NBA player props, which Pablo Torre already had. Pablo Torre ran this story over the summer. This is not a story. If you're tapped into the sports world and you do a good job crunching sports content, you have heard of Pablo Torre and you know of this story. You couldn't help it, especially if you're tapped into any, big time social sports handles, because everybody talked about it at the time, right? And if you like anything about Pablo Torre, he will tell you that he did this whole story already. So I don't know what the big deal is outside of the fact that the FBI is announcing it. But a lot of this is just pure showmanship. Here's Kash Patel behind a podium announcing a big flashy mob, NBA, poker, player props investigation where, what are we talking about here? Chauncey Billups didn't even get arrested for anything related to basketball. He was involved in the poker from everything that I read so far. Right? And the rest of these tidbits about player props, again, like player props are like but a fraction of the overall gambling handle. They just are. So, what kind of numbers are we talking about here? You read this stuff and you listen to these stories and you would think that we are talking about tens of millions of dollars in illegal betting that has changed hands because of insider information. You want to talk about really material stories about gambling, about sports betting, about the industry. You should focus all of your time and energy on following the current prediction market news and their, I guess, infiltration, if you want to say, of current legalized sports gambling at the state level. If you want to talk about the real big story, because that's what the big story is. That is the big story. The big story is that in 2016, New Jersey won a court case that allowed states to legalize gambling on the state level. And now, because of a very juicy, story involving the president's son, uh, a department underneath the president's administration, lack of involvement, a foreign company that has now been purchased or a joint partnership investment with the stock exchange. We're talking about giant, giant sums of cash. And obviously, the plan for big, giant financial firms and entities to get involved in the sports gambling space, one way or another. And this is going to go down to court cases and the Supreme Court. And it's going to go on until something on the legal level decides which way this can go. Because for all intents and purposes right now, the states' rights have been circumvented by the prediction markets based on words like swaps. And I don't know, what was there was some kind of act, a commodities act of blah, 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 blah. And because of these semantical, gaps, you now have prediction markets everywhere across the United States, basically making it federally legal. That's what it is, right? Which is crazy in its own right. And that is the story. That is the story that should be on every one of these. I have a TV up here. So when I look up, I'm looking up at a TV. That should be the story that's across every single media channel and outlet and social media handle that there is. Because it really is unlike anything that I've ever seen in my lifetime, where you have such a politically affiliated board member, such as Trump Jr., associated with a company that is basically sticking their middle finger up to all of the states and state law and saying, we're doing this, like it or not. And we'll go to court with you every single time, with kind of the arrogant attitude that we're going to win. That's why. But you won't see this story anywhere on the news. You'll see this little poker player prop story everywhere, but you won't hear about the prediction market one. I mean, you will on the internet for sure, because you can't help but, I mean, if you're on X and you have some kind of toe in the water of sports, the algorithm will probably jam all this prediction stuff at you. But I mean, good luck trying to find it anywhere on the TV compared to today, where forget it. It was Patel was tearing down the NBA. And if you turn on ESPN, you saw it. I know I posted it, and I saw millions of people posted it, so not unique. But this investigation, which was announced today, somehow became, via Stephen A. Smith on First Take, that Trump is coming after everybody. The NBA, the NFL, the WNBA, Trump's going to come after the WNBA? What? Why? They don't even make money. They don't make money. There's nothing to come after him for. And then actually said everybody except for UFC, because we know Trump's friends with Dana White. What? A poker player prop investigation has now turned into, Donald Trump going after all of sports. And with the UFC thing, you could probably say like black sports in America, right? I mean, you couldn't not say that since he said the USC part, right? Which is like, no, this has nothing to do. This is a little tiny, we're going to publicize that we made this big splash. This is like, this is showmanship. This is so dog and pony show. It was, the whole morning has been crazy watching it. So, but again, I don't know. Maybe it is this big, gigantic thing. And as over the next course of 3-4 months, they're going to bring down all of these leagues where there's been nothing but illegal activity and players throwing games. I mean, hell, Donaghy pointed the finger to this, 20 years ago when he got busted? I mean, none of this is new. It's not new. We just live with it. And it is what it is. You watched the Kansas City-Detroit game 2 weeks ago, and you watched a highly publicized big plus odds bet come through on Jared Goff getting the first touchdown, which was called in from New York and negated altogether. Negated. Where people were going nuts on Twitter because they were like, I hit it. I was like, I didn't hit it. But they're like, I just won a ton of money. I wanted money. And all of a sudden, they're just like, hold on. New York is called in.
This can't be happening.
No, it is. New York called in. And hold on. Now it's going on like 30, 40 seconds. I feel you. Hold on. Now there's like 4 or 5 guys talking to each other.
Oh my goddamn hand, man.
Yeah, you better get ready for this. Because guess what? Oh no, here comes a flag. Illegal motion. Take that one off the board. I mean, come on. This stuff has been going on forever and will continue. And this story is just a little tiny, chapter in a long story. But you more or less accept that there's some dirty shenanigans going on with all of this, right? You can't, there's been stories about it. It has gone away. It won't. It's just, what you have to question is the materiality of these investigations that you're hearing, right? Is this material? And we can't even talk about Chauncey Billups. He was playing poker or dealing poker. It wasn't to do with sports. Terry Rozier, and I forget the guy in the summer, Malik Beasley, right? I think Beasley was the big Pablo Torre story. And okay. Did Malik Beasley result in the Thunder winning the championship last year? I don't think so. Okay. Even to this point, did New York waving off the Jared Goff touchdown from last week result in Kansas City thumping Detroit? No, it didn't. They beat them pretty clean. So, all right. Anyway, that's my 2 cents about the whole thing. I think it's probably the 5th time I said 2 cents. But this podcast was not supposed to be about Pablo Torre and the NBA and Kosh Patel and Stephen A. Smith and Don Trump. Not. This is what it is supposed to be. And so let's go back to where we wanted to head off in the first place. My ode to my fellow and fellette New York Giants fans. I actually took me a while. I wrote this one. I didn't want to wing it. I yammer a lot, right? When I wing it. And so I decided, you know what? I'll write it out. And I'll just read it. I don't have a teleprompter. I'm doing this on my computer in my basement. Let me say first that I do not, what I should be able to read, right? I just said that I read it, and now I can't even read my own handwriting. Maybe I should have blown it up or got glasses. I did have glasses. I lost all my glasses. I never replaced them. So I probably should do that. Let me first say that I do not say what I'm about to say lightly. It's a lot of says in one sentence. Maybe I should have proofread this. The Giants, over the decades, have brought me a great many memories. I'll start when I was just a wee little man. And there were 3 people that I wanted to be growing up. Magic Johnson, Eddie Murphy, and Lawrence Taylor. All for different reasons. But for LT, it was because he was a fucking badass. And to watch him tear apart offenses was awesome. Simply awesome. My parents got me an LT jersey, and I remember wanting to play football just so that I could put that jersey on my shoulder pads as I played. Think about how stupid that was, too. How little I knew as a kid that I could go into a rec football program and put Lawrence Taylor's jersey on to play. I remember driving. I'm like, I might have had it in my dad's car. I was like, can I put this on my shoulder pads? No, here's your fucking practice jersey, dummy. Anyway, but I wanted to be that guy, right? I remember my parents having people over for the Super Bowl in '87 to watch the Big Blue crush John Elway and the Broncos. See what I did there? I stammered, but crush, Orange Crush, Big Blue crush John Elway. I remember being at my friend Bert's house watching the strategic masterpiece in '91 that led to yet another Giant Super Bowl. Norwood missed. And fun fact, that Super Bowl featured the just as epic Bud Bowl 3 with Bud Dry under center for Bud Light. Crazy part about that one, though, is that Ralph is still looking for his just dues. He was the one that got it done. Yet they're still talking about Bud Dry under center all these years later. Anywho, well, it took another 10 years to get back to the Super Bowl. And Giants fans watched an absolute throttling by Ray Lewis, which led to a decade of you don't actually need a quarterback to win a championship arguments. Remember all those? Ravens won with Trent Dilfer. Ravens won with Trent Dilfer. Ravens won with Trent Dilfer. Yeah, we get it. Spoiler, you do need a quarterback, though. And then there was 2002, when the Giants, in my opinion, of course, had the best team in the NFC. You know, this is actually the season that still bothers me because of how bad things broke in that game. You think the Broncos' collapse last Sunday was bad? Well, you don't know. Well, many of you do. But you don't, many of you do, but the ones that don't, you don't get it, right? This is kind of like, you don't get it. It's Catalina wine mixer, man. The Giants were up 38-14 with 4 minutes to go in the third. And then everything went wrong. Hammer was already out, if I remember right. But then Kenny Holmes went down mid-game, I think right before the end of the first half. And as a result, we had nobody on our D-line to go with Strahan. I think we had Frank Ferrara out there. No, we definitely had Frank Ferrara out there. I just don't know where he went. I think he went to the football powerhouse of Rhode Island, I think is where he hailed from. And then Johnny Lynn decided that somehow putting Jason Sehorn on TO man-on-man was a good idea. As a result, Terrell Owens went off, finished the game with 9 catches for 177 yards and 2 touchdowns. And this was, of course, also the Trey Junkin game, his botched snap, and the beyond horrific illegal man down field call, all leading to the 39-38 loss, right? And that play call, or flag that is, that it just should have been a repeat of the down, right? Because he had said that he was legal before the play started, but whatever. It was just terrific. And I ultimately, I think Tagliabue said it was one of the worst calls during his tenure. Google it, but I'm almost positive that was it. But anyway, that was the beginning of the next era, because from that loss, we then transitioned into Eli. And then we had Tiki saving Coughlin's job versus Washington. And this all led up to the 2007 Super Bowl run. Now, I was a Laker fan when I was a kid, and I remember the Celtics series well. I remember my mom waking me up to see the Mets come back versus the Red Sox. As a Devils fan, I remember losing that 94 Rangers series before eventually winning the Cup. I was a freshman at Wake Forest. Oh, this is a good one. I was a freshman at Wake Forest when Randolph Childress put that move on Jeff McGinnis. Broke him down. Dude fell on the court. Childress turned at him, told him to get up. Get up. Get up. Drilled a 3. It was awesome. Wake won the ACC championship when the ACC championship meant something back then. And that move by Childress was 94. That was way ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time. Anyway, in my life as a sports fan, taking all of that into consideration, nothing was as great as that 2007 Giants run. From trying to knock the Pats off in the final game, to going on the road for the rest of the playoffs, to watching the Ice Bowl in Lambeau. I watched that game by myself with a sea of other fans at the Orange Lantern in Paramus. I don't remember why I was by myself. I think my wife was with me, and I think Allie bolted and went home. Can't remember. But I do remember a bar full of people losing their shit because of how crazy that game was. And you could feel the cold coming through the TV. You could just feel it. It was so brutally cold there. I forget what it was with the wind chill. But I actually had a friend and his brother that went to Lambeau for that game. And they had told me that in the stands, holding beers, the beers would freeze. The top of the beer would freeze as the game went on, as you were trying to drink it. That's how cold it was. And this whole run of 2007 then concluded, of course, with the Eli and David Tyree catch, delivering probably the most memorable play in Super Bowl history. Catch 42. Game was really legendary, minus the first half, because that was kind of boring, to be honest. But they won in fantastic fashion. Poor Randy Moss, wide open there, beat the safeties. Brady needed like 3 more yards on that ball, and they would have won it. Not to be that day. And so the Giants end up winning that one. And the Giants could have repeated the next year, too, if it wasn't for Plaxico's dress attire and lack of proper firearm holstering. Then we had the 2011 Super Bowl, which was also fun, but not necessarily as fun as 2007. And then the joy was basically done. I mean, that was it. I guess I'll say that Odell was cool as hell to watch. And Barkley had a couple of moments as well. But that 2011 Super Bowl was really the last fun season there was. 2016, 2022, nah. Those teams were limited. And if you put it to a poll, I'd imagine most fans didn't have high hopes for those runs. No, 2011 was really the last year. And the point of all this is that I derived a great amount of joy and pain, joy and pain from watching the New York Giants. I have. Just a fact. And we have been bad for so long now that it makes what I'm going to say even more odd. And that is walk away. Turn your TVs off. Sell your tickets to the highest bidder. Don't buy that new hat. Don't turn on WFAN. Don't stream any of the Giants podcasts that are in your queue. Turn your back and walk away. Sounds crazy, right? Because the Giants team is probably the most fun team, this one, in decades. In a decade plus. Dart's a stud. For the 8 games that he plays, Scatterbo will be fun as hell to watch running headfirst into everything. Scatterboo, boop, 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 boop. Scatterboo, boop, 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 boop. Brian Burns, truly a premier pass rusher. Abdul looks every good as bit as the hype. And Tibbs, for as much as I haven't been a fan of his game, is playing really, really well this year. Got to give it to him. And Thomas is the mountain. Right? So, if all of that's the case, why turn your back now? Seems ridiculous. And to an extent it is. I do not lie. But here's the bottom line. John Mara is a terrible owner. He's awful. The structure he has set up for his member club will never work. his son and Tim McDonald and Kevin Abrams cannot continually be involved with personnel. It goes to the GM. The GM fills it. You have 2 houses. This bullshit setup has led to failure after failure after failure, to the point that now you have a staff and a power dynamic that, if not for Amy Adams and of the Titans and Woody Johnson of the Jets, would be the worst in the entire league. And they might still be. I don't know. They just cycle through GMs and coaches every couple of years, and it hasn't worked. Joe Judge and Pat Shermer. I mean, God, McAdoo. Hell, to an extent, Coughlin didn't work either. Minus those 2 runs. Coughlin didn't work. Then they hired a coach-GM combo 4 years ago, only to successfully now have pit the 2 against each other, to the point that they're now both in self-preservation mode. The GM is over his head. He's kissing as much Mara ass as he can, but can't do anything simple like sign a healthy kicker, build a wide receiver room deeper than one guy. You have a QB who's a legit superstar, and the coach now thinks that his whole coaching future, whether that's here in New York or elsewhere, hinges on the kid's success. He thinks it so much that during the game versus the Eagles, he left the sidelines. He left the sidelines to check on Dart's injury status in the blue tent. Think about how crazy that is, that the head coach, while the game is still going on, leaves his post to go into the tent and check up on his rookie quarterback. There's still a game going on. What? And he's sitting there being a fanboy. Has anybody seen Brian? The game's going on. We can't find Brian. He was here. He's not here anymore. Has anybody seen Brian? We're going to punt, I guess, but where the hell did Brian go? I mean, it was really crazy. He was sitting there trying to get in the tent. But they won that big Thursday night game, which was the second big week in 3 weeks. Second big win in 3 weeks. And there was a pulse, right? The fans were juiced. The problem, though, is that the defense had, and for an entire year plus, been a shit show. Some big talent, some questionable talent, but the biggest issue was that from an outside observer, the defensive approach continually made no sense, right? But after that Eagles game, you get a stay of an execution, and that was good through the legendary implosion in the fourth quarter of the Broncos game. Again, not as bad as that 2002 game, but pretty awful in its own right. And that failure was so great because it repeated the same issues that had been identified from fans from a year plus worth of tape and the 2 games earlier in the season, right? And then there's Dable yelling or not yelling at Bowen on the sideline. And then there was the Brian Burns video. And then on Monday, when, get this, nothing happened. What? Nothing happened. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Even if the thought process was that Bowen was best for at least the Eagles game because he'd best leverage the prior strategy from Thursday night victory, it doesn't matter. The Broncos' performance gets you fired. Period. It gets at least someone fired. I don't know who, but someone. See, if you're Taggart in Rosewood and you fall for the banana in the tailpipe, yeah, all right, fine, you get a second chance. But when you get caught at the nudie bar, you're off the case. Where the beer gives you gas and the Bundys kick ass. At the nudie bar. When you're Don Ward and you miss 3 jackpots in 20 minutes, you're fired. When you're Tom Schmakowski and you lose your shit on the Bobs, you're fired. Better yet, if you're Rich Eggy and Allison Turner hates you, and Joe Rose takes an ad hoc vacation on a Monday after a Monday show, and then you don't take the Marlins marketing director on your show for an interview because who wants to interview a marketing director of a baseball team? But you do try to do the right thing and tell the morning producer to take the director for interview during the midday show because he had booked him, and that's where he was working for that week. But only to find out that the midday show never took him. And then the director never made it on air, only to call Allison Turner and tell her that he had Yankee and Marlins tickets to give away that whole week. Well, guess what? You're fired. You're fired. Yeah, that's what happens.
Oh, I hate you. I hate you.
That was really frustrating. Point is that decisions and results have consequences, but not with the New York Giants. And that is utterly reflective of a big systemic issue. Their MO has forever been the same. We do what we want when we want to do it, which is fine if you win. But here you have a defensive coordinator that is not cut out for the job. He's not, and you have no argument otherwise, especially when the guy blatantly cost you at least 2 games a season, which made Sunday's loss versus the Broncos an insta-fire. That was it. You were done. We get that as a fan base. We get that you as a fan base are upset. This is the Giants talking here. We do what we want when we want to do it. Sure, Giants, we get that you at a fan base is, upset. But just take it from us. We're upset too. This really bothers us. So much so that we're actually not going to do anything different. But trust us when we say we're upset about it. I mean, come on. The only thing that should have been discussed after that loss was whether or not Bowen was fired on Sunday or Monday. That was it. But nope, the Giants do what they want to do when they want to do it. So now they're telling us they're upset, right? Okay, fine. So be it. And to that, the fans' response should be simple. Walk away. Turn your TVs off. Sell your tickets to the highest bidder. Don't buy that new hat. Don't turn on WFAN. Don't stream any of the Giants podcasts in your queue. Turn your back and walk away. Yes, I meant to say that twice. See, the fans are always in control. They determine what happens in the end. It's hard to believe. Hear me out. The problem is because the power is fragmented across tens of millions of fans that nobody really understands the power they hold. And even if they do get it, they really don't know how to coordinate amongst themselves to force the change. And as a result, fans continue to be like moths to a flame and continually get toasted by an owner who's completely inept and a staff that doesn't look to be much different. Well, I'm here to scream in your face. Have more respect for yourself. Would you stay with the girl if she kept cheating on you? Ladies, same question for your boyfriends. Would you stay friends with someone who kept stabbing you in the back? Would you keep going to a restaurant whose food blew? No. You would walk away from all of those situations. Well, girlfriends and boyfriends, probably not, right? It's a story as old as time. It's same as this, right? With sports, back to sports, and with them, people value themselves infinitely less. I don't know why, but we do. Just like that poor fucking kid, the Jet fan, whose father dragged him into the fandom of the New York Jets franchise. Instead of just teaching him he could go and choose any team he wants to root for. Right? That's what he could have done. Could have chose the Chiefs. Some franchise that was respectful and fun. But the poor kid is just stuck there walking out of MetLife Stadium And then whoever it was interviewed him, and the kid goes, I hate this team. Yeah. Everybody gets it because we've all been there. But as a father, it is now my job to teach my son that he doesn't have to feel that way. He doesn't. You are in control. You can just tell the team, screw. But sports just works so weird. I don't understand it. So, anyway, why do we, as sports fans, value our money and time so little? That's the question. It's crazy. We are the money that pays for all of these people. TV deals, sponsorships, advertising, merchandise, tickets, food, beer, tax breaks from states, free taxpayer cash for stadiums. All of it. It's all yours. It's your money. So if you or we as a collective learn to just turn our backs and walk away, we win. Empty parking lots, empty stadiums, full team stores of merchandise, crashing secondary market prices for tickets, low TV ratings. Those things force change. And that is completely in your control. Don't be a customer. Don't be a bitch. Be a boss. Walk away. Watch another team. Surprise your wife by being mentally present for a Sunday between 1 and midnight. Go watch a movie or something with your kid. Do anything but watch or attend the game of a club that doesn't value you or your opinion. Hold them accountable. You turn your back, and I guarantee you that your team makes changes. And that's exactly what I plan on doing. One thing about me, I live it. I say it, I live it. Once in a blue moon, I'll get caught. But I like to be as authentic as I can. I'm not infallible. I'm human. But that's what I plan on doing. Shane Bowen has to go. His presence on the sideline impairs the chances of winning in a material way. That's gone on for too long. If the Giants don't want to get rid of him, I get rid of the Giants. Fire Bowen, and I'm back. Until the pattern repeats, right? But the time has come that I'll only invest my time and money if Mara shows he values it. And words mean shit at this point. It's all about results. Results, results, results. And only results. Always results. The results aren't here. And I won't be either because I'm in control of that. What have you done for me lately, Eddie? What have you done for me, Eddie? Remember that one? Raw, I think. That's the question you have to ask. And with that, I'll shut my big yapper and let you go along your way. But don't forget the point here. Sure, you like watching football. Who doesn't? But what is your time and money worth? You want to give that away for nothing? Or do you want a committed partner? Who on the other side is doing what needs to be done so that you can best enjoy your time. That time belongs to you. And in a weird way, one that you'll never see in your net worth, this team belongs to you. So make the choice. And for anyone outside of the New York Giants fandom that happens to also fall on this video, it's probably not many based on the numbers, but this goes for you too. You don't have to tolerate failure. You're a Titans fan, you're a Jets fan, and Saints fan. Although you guys kind of got through the quarterback thing going into the season, but you know what I'm driving at. Any sports fans, like Pirates fans, whoever, you don't have to tolerate failure. It is a choice. And if you had enough, make that statement. If you had enough, make that statement. Listen again. If you've had enough, make that statement. Walk away. And stop being such a little bitch. Anyway, that's it for today's show. And I am trying to coordinate with my brother so we can get the next Let's Bet wager show in there. Last week actually was pretty good. I had a nice cup. Again, it was one of those weeks where I came so close to hitting a home run that really would have set things off. But I used a little bit of Matt Capline's low stress bets that factored in there a little bit. So I was happy with the results. My brother, he had a stinker, so unfortunately for him, didn't come in. But this week is a new week and a lot of high spreads too. I mean, it was crazy. Like the books had just had enough. They're like, you're 7 one way, or it's like a 1.5 line spread. It's really nuts. But anyway, we will get to that in the next couple of days. And in the meantime, hope you enjoyed, and remember, value your time, dude. Value your time. It's worth something to you. To you. Don't be a sucker. Don't do it. Walk away. Anyway, till next time I talk to you guys, thank you for listening. Audi 5000.